Hey, this is Shaun with the Go Tennis Podcast, powered by Signature Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And today is 10 minutes of tennis with world-renowned tennis coach, Australian in Puerto Rico, Justin Yeo, a mentor of mine. I will throw that in there because we're going to talk about that today. Justin was the head pro at the first country club, and maybe not country club, where I was hired as a tennis coach. Somebody took a chance on a young guy like me. And today we want to talk about professional networking, lowering the ego for the greater good, which is going to be a fun one, right? We'll stick that right in the middle because that'll be fun. And finding the right mentor. So, Justin, let's start with professional networking.
Well, where do you start there? I mean, I think I've just about built my whole career around that. When you grow up with, middle class, blue collar, and you don't really have much, the best thing you got to do is rely on the people you know and the relationships you make. I'd have to say that's pretty much my whole career. So networking to me is probably the one thing I do every single day. Even though I've moved from a little bit of the tennis industry into business development and startup projects, it is all very much involving networking. So I think sometimes you're hitting number two, which is the ego. If you don't drop the ego, it's hard to network because some people don't want to connect with you or have a relationship with you if you believe you just know it all. So I think they go hand in hand, both of them. And then that obviously, we weren't going to get into education, but you tend to educate yourself more and learn more out of the relationships if we can somewhat drop the ego and believe we're all on the same playing field, all in the same mission. We're all trying to enjoy tennis and do tennis from a broad perspective. So.
And before we get into the ego, which I think is the tougher of the three concepts here, especially for competitive tennis types,
Right.
How did you do the professional networking in racket sports? Is it any different than business in other industries? Because it's basically the same thing. We just have to find it in different places.
Yeah, we just look in tennis. If we've grown up with it, we've grown up very independent, very individual as on a court, relying on ourselves, relying on our training. Even our friends that we're really close to, we've tried to kick their ass every single day we go on the tennis court.
Yeah.
So we really we're not as tennis players built for relationships. We're built to be stronger on our own. So if you look at a tennis player, that's how we're built. But on the other hand, to grow as a tennis player, to improve yourself and to grab, Nick Bollettieri or any of these other coaches, you have to learn to be able to drop everything, be humble, and learn wherever you can, because that's how you grow as a tennis player as well. So it's a combination of both. And then as you go into business, you've just got to sort of try to weigh up the other way than the other way. I think, I've been in the high performance industry for a very long time. One of the things that was a downer in the high performance industry is nobody seemed to want to connect heads, work together, improve kids for the greater good of tennis. They all wanted to improve their business, didn't want to give up kids, didn't want kids to mix with their kids. It was all a little bit out of whack as far as I was concerned. And then what we got used to as pros, which was sad, is that, a kid would be doing this and then the parent would just pick them up and take them to another academy saying, well, I'll get the best of this guy and I'll get the best of this guy and I'll get the best of this guy. But in the end, the athlete gets screwed up because they've got all these agendas versus just their agenda. So that's where the ego, as far as I'm concerned, needs a big checkup in the tennis industry, because we're all got the same direction. We've all got the same passion. And eventually, the more we all get together, which I think we're seeing more of that nowadays because of the Instagram and because of the videos, and people are following each other and people are sharing. Yeah, as far as networking, relationships, that has a lot to do with making sure the ego is checked.
Yeah, and that's the bigger issue. I have found it to be more difficult in the high performance niche of
Yep.
racket sports, where the country club types are a little better about, hey, you got a good employee, you want to send one my way, I need somebody for this. It's a lot more collaborative in the club industry, even in the public parks, where employees need to have a fit. Maybe we have a niche and it's different from somebody else. There's a lot more teamwork involved. And it makes me think back to a recent episode we did on the podcast talking about the team aspect of tennis. The college type teams and the high school type teams are good for tennis in general, especially the player, because that teaches you to take an individual concept and work it into a team. And a bit of that is necessary. The phrase I'm looking at now, which I appreciate, is in tennis, confidence is key, but an unchecked ego can block collaboration. And I think
Yep.
that's especially true in the high performance niche.
Yeah, well, and a high performance niche too. It's sort of on their own. When you're talking about a club, the environment is people that join the club, so they're not necessarily going to move to other clubs because it costs them more money. So in a club, once you've got your members, they're really not going anywhere. In the independent world, because I know Atlanta very well, that's a tough one because you might have a bunch of ladies teams, and you got your book and you got your regular income coming in, and some Aussie guy opens up next door and they all move to him, and he can't do anything about it because there's no contract, there's no, signed dotted line that they're all required to be staying with that coach. So that's probably where it's tough. But on the other hand, I used to say the GPTA meetings were great because you could actually go meet some of these other pros that are doing well, ask them what they're doing, and then see if you can add that to your own program, which then hopefully you'll grow because there's plenty to choose from. There is definitely plenty of cherries to pop or plenty to pick. Sorry, in Atlanta, and there's definitely ways of growing your business just by growing yourself. So that's pretty much what I continue to focus on in business and in tennis. It's the same thing. You just keep growing yourself, things are going to continue to grow for you.
Well, I like the plug for the GPTA because the GPTA has recently become the American Racket Sports Association,
Right?
focused on professional networking. And even if you're the competitive type, getting into that professional networking, getting to know the other coaches and the other types, getting together, finding collaboration, potentially being able to expand and work together is really what that organization is promoting,
Yep.
because this collaboration is better than competition, in our opinion, when our business niche, when we zoom out to the overall niche of racket sports, we do a lot better working together. And that leads me to the mentor concept, which is
Yep.
difficult to find for some. You find it again in the club industry where there is a business, there's a corporate ladder sometimes, even to
Right.
follow, going from head pro to director, and being able to move up and see a career path. They're a
Mm.
little bit better about it. Public parks, not as good about it, but it's still, there can be a similar moving up in the company kind of idea. But we've got maybe 50%, if not more, of our coaches around, especially in the Atlanta area, are independent types. There's no
Right.
corporate ladder to follow. You are that island out there, and you need
Mm.
to really, in my opinion, connect with the other islands to help.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're all very busy in the tennis world. You're either on the court or running the club, or got a thousand members you got to make happy. A general manager above you that's relying on you to improve things year by year, or they drop you out and the next guy comes in, which we've seen a lot of rotation in management. Um, it is a tough road to have the time to be able to mentor someone. But my belief is we need to, as we grow as an industry, we're going to need to do that because what I've learned in the executive world and the business world, majority really do try to make time for people that are, seem to be passionate, want to learn the industry a little more, and they make time, whether it's an hour a month or whatever it is. They'll say, yes, I'm willing to help you because I've seen how much you want to grow in this industry. So I've been very fortunate to met a lot of great mentors in the executive world versus the tennis world. But mind you, in the tennis world, I got a lot of mentors. They're all good friends. They're all great people. But again, the ego dropped and I met them and I talked with them. And the more you do that, the more they actually just want a relationship, which in the end can be a mentorship in its own.
Yeah, and it becomes potentially a long-term friendship, as yours and mine has,
Right.
and others. I've had some mentors that, you know what, when we stopped working for the same business, we moved on and didn't reconnect. But that doesn't mean you don't learn a lot. That doesn't mean you don't mature for having had that relationship, which I think is extremely helpful. I'm hoping the American Racket Sports Association can help with some of those things because, again, no man is an island. If you're out there on your own, My suggestion is network. Get to know those around you. Don't just close in and assume that everybody around you is trying to take your piece of the pie. Let's get together and grow the pie.
Yeah, and I probably just on a last note, I would just say explore yourself, find out who you are, because sometimes I think tennis pros they're just in the job for making a good living, and they do something they love, and they're outside and they're trying to stay healthy, and they're taking care of kids, and it's enthusiastic every day. But maybe there's another element in the sport that they could fall into where there's tools they have, they just haven't taken the risk or explored it. And I think right now is a great moment for that, for the reason that when I'm watching all these tennis channels and all these talk shows and all these Instagram podcasts, and there's a lot of people in this industry that aren't really got a massive tennis following background, but have loved the game and have the personality to do well on the screen or online. So
It's good advice. I like it. Justin, I appreciate your time. This has been 10 Minutes of Tennis. We will see you again next week. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
cheers, mate.